Yeah.
You do? Do you hear that?
I'm sorry.
Do you hear my sound?
I don't hear.
You don't hear anything?
No. I just got off with our speaker. She's logging on right now, so we will start shortly. It's going to be worth the wait, y'all. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Christelle, what do you think? I'm thinking maybe I should just do the introduction and COVID information as we wait, and then we could just pop right into her presentation. If that's okay with you all, I'm gonna go ahead and go with that. So hello again. Thank you all for joining us for Wooten Center's Parent Power Group Workshop. My name is Rebecca Dabbs, and I'm the COVID-19 health educator for the center. If we could take a quick moment, can you please put your name in the chat box for a chat check-in? We are logging the information so we know how many people we have shared these great resources with. So I'm going to give you a little time to pop your name in the chat. I really appreciate it. So again, as you're putting your name in the chat, thank you to our returning community members and welcome our new members to our presentation. The Wooten Center is a nonprofit organization founded by Myrtle Rump in 1990 to honor her late son who was tragically killed in a drive-by shooting. The center provides free after-school and summer programs for students in grades 3 through 12 in the South Los Angeles area, as well as such programs such as this, such as our Parent Power Group Workshop to support their families. These workshops are presented in partnership with the Green Foundation and other donors, which can be found at www.wootencenter.org/donor. As the COVID-19 health educator, I also want to share some information for you all on COVID-19 related resources. The Los Angeles County Department of Public Health wants to ensure everyone is aware that all the available COVID-19 vaccines are 100% free and health insurance is not required to get them. Appointments and eligibility vary, and you can visit vaccinatelacounty.com for more information. And I'm going to put that link in the chat for you all. And I'm admitting our presenter. Hello, Ms. McAdoo. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to run through these slides and then I'll turn it over to you. So additionally, the CDC has put together this infographic that helps explain a bit more about the vaccine. As of today, the shot is one of the main tools we have to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, in addition to wearing your mask and staying 6 feet apart from people who do not live in your household. The vaccine works with your body's natural defense, so it'll be ready to fight the virus should you be exposed. Studies show that all 3 of the available vaccines are very effective at keeping you from getting the virus and can also reduce the risk of getting seriously ill should you contract it. It's important to note that the vaccines do not give you the disease itself. For more information on the COVID vaccine available, visit the Center for Disease Control and Prevention website at www.cdc.gov/coronavirus/vaccines. And that was pretty long, so I will also place that in the chat for your link, for you to link later. As I said earlier, thank you for joining us. This is our 3rd Spring 2021 Parent Power Group workshops. These workshops are free and available to parents, grandparents, guardians, or anyone who is in a supporting role of a child or teen. They are held on Monday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m., and registration is required at www.lutoncenter.org events. That's our link, and I'll put that in the chat again. Our upcoming workshops are a series with Mr. Andrew Henderson titled Teaching Kids Responsibility and Discipline. Mr. Henderson is one of our amazing returning speakers. The dates and focus for April are April 5th, establishing learning rituals in the home, April 12th, motivating students, April 19th, providing learning assistance in the home, and April 26th, monitoring your students' educational progress. Tonight, we are very fortunate to have Ms. Daphne Johnson McAdoo with us presenting on how to support your high school students preparing for college. Ms. McAdoo has been a LA Unified School District counselor with over 2 decades of experience working with high school students. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from UCLA, her teaching credential and master's degree in counseling from California State University in Dominguez Hills. She is currently a reader for UCLA responsible for reviewing college applications from freshman applicants. But despite all of her amazing academic and professional accomplishments, Ms. McAdoo's greatest accomplishment is that she is a mother to twins, with her daughter graduating from Howard University and her son graduating from UCLA this spring. She is a proud mama, and she should be. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for being here, Ms. McAdoo, and I will turn it over to you. There you are, I see you. I am going to stop sharing, Ms. McAdoo, and I'm going to share your presentation.
Okay.
Let me just pull this up. Let me share my screen.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, and it's really an honor being asked to present to parents, and I really feel that it's an exciting point in your lives. And I really didn't, as a counselor, I've been a counselor for over 35 years, but it wasn't until I became a parent myself that I could really empathize with a mother, with a father, and knowing their concern and their interest in their child's education. So I'm really happy that you guys are here and taking part in learning this information early on. Can you tell me if you have a parent of a senior in the audience? Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, okay, well that's great. If not, I think the earlier the better, because the road to college really begins, next slide. The road to college really begins, in my opinion and experience, it really begins really in 6th grade. And the reason why I say that is because mathematics is the gatekeeper. Okay. And I know this isn't in the slide, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but in order to really be in the advanced math classes, you really should start as, the UCs will count algebra as early as the 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade. The LA Unified, for example, they don't offer algebra anymore to an 8th grade student. But not knocking that, but I really feel like you have to start off with algebra. So when I say that it begins in the 6th grade, your child, that's your first year of middle school, and it's really important that a parent is able to identify their child's strengths as well as their weaknesses. And if you feel that your child may need remediation in the subject, there's no shame or harm in getting tutoring and remediation for your child. But I'm going to go back to the presentation. And so in higher education, There are different types of degrees. So after you graduate from high school, 4 years, you earn your high school diploma. After you graduate from a community college, you earn your associate's degree. And after you graduate from university, you can earn your bachelor's degree. Next slide. Or most people call it an AA or a BA. In addition, if you go on to 2 more years of education, you'll earn your master's degree, which most high school teachers and counselors have. And then if you go on for an additional 3 years, you'll earn your doctoral degree, your ED, and that's your educational doctorate, your PhD, JD, or MD. Next slide. But one thing the typical question that I used to get from my students was, well, why should I go to college? Why should I go to college? Well, I'm not saying that to be successful in life, that a 4-year education, only people that have 4-year educations are the only successful people in life, because that's not true. Because if you're a craftsman or a tradesman, then you can definitely earn an outstanding living. But one thing about going to a university or a college education is that it will expand your earning power in your lifetime. So this is a statistics from the Department of Labor, but it's basically saying that if you notice that with the earning power for a person who doesn't have their high school diploma, on the average, they'll earn 22,000, but all the way up to your doctoral degree, you can earn your up to 82,000 a year. And so really life, yes, adults, we know that money can't buy happiness, but it could definitely make you quite comfortable, okay? And so I would tell my kids, my former students, that it will just increase your earning power in your lifetime. Next slide. In California, there are 4 systems of higher education. You have your California community colleges, West LA, Southwest, Compton College, El Camino. And the acceptance rate with those universities, that system is 100%. In order to, anybody that applies to a community college will be entitled to get in. If for the California State University system, that admissions rate, they take 33% of the population of California. Then there's the UC system, where they only take the top 12.5% of the students in California. And then of course you have your private colleges like Loyola, Stanford, St. Mary's University, and they vary, as far as their admissions rates. Next slide. So there are different paths to get into college. Some people go straight out of high school. You'll go to a Cal State or a UC or a private college. Next slide. Or you'll go to high school, then community college, and then to a 4-year school. And one thing I have to say as a reader over the past several years, the UCs have made a concerted effort to make sure that they admitted just as many community college transfer students as they have freshmen straight out of high school. So a lot of times students who may find college really very, very expensive may take this route and, go to a community college and then transfer over. But one thing I have to say, that in order to do that, and to be successful in transferring over, that student has to be very strong-willed, and they have to make sure they follow a plan called the IGETSI, but we'll get into that, to make sure they have the right classes to transfer over. Next slide. So the 4 systems of higher education in California are the community colleges, the Cal State system, the UC system, and then the private colleges. And one thing I like to say is that it's not that the Cal State systems are better than, or the UC system is better than the Cal State system. It definitely depends upon your style of learning. The Cal State systems, their design in the California Master Plan is going way back when they were creating higher education system in California. The Cal State system, they're really teaching universities. And so those classes are very, and they're designed to be teaching colleges. So those classes are very small, intimate, and the professor will know your name. And it's basically a very small setting versus the UC colleges, they were designed for research. So now with COVID and UCLA, they've taken a lead in COVID research, UC Irvine, and they're known for their research in cardiac medicine. So students who are designed or who are into research would go to a UC. So it's not that one system is better than another. It just depends upon what you want out of your education. Next slide. So the California community colleges, there are 112 schools statewide. They're two-year institutions. They offer different types of programs, technical or vocational certificates, AA or Associate of Arts. The goal is to transfer to a four-year university. And some students will, while they're in high school, and we'll get into that later, but while you're in high school students can go to a LA community college for free while they're in high school. And those classes will count towards their their high school graduation, as well as their college admissions. And like I said before, there's no subject requirement, and you have to be 18 years or older, or if not, you have to have permission from your counselor. Okay, next slide. And then to get into the only test that's required for a community college is that you have to take a placement exam, and before you enter, so they'll know your actual level. And that's the main thing. And then there are websites to help you study for those tests. Next slide. And then that's what I was getting into before. This is called the Intersegmental General Education Transfer Curriculum. And if you went to a community college, or if you're familiar with the community college, it's called the IGETC. And the main thing, like I said before, is to make sure you have a plan so you'll know the exact classes that you need to transfer over. Personally, I have one of my best friends, she was like at West LA for 8 years, and it's a community college, but she was just going along. And then she finally, transferred to Cal State Northridge. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Then the Cal State systems, those are like your Cal State LA, your Cal State Northridge, San Diego State. There are 23 schools statewide. They're four-year institutions, and they're known as teaching institutions. And not that you want to become a teacher, but the professor is there to have that one-on-one contact with their students. Their degrees are, they offer same degrees as the university, BAs, BS, master's, teaching credentials, and some have doctoral programs with their joint programs with the UC. Now, this is somewhat misleading. We'll go into that, but the minimum grade point average to apply is a 2.0. You have to have an A through G, you have to fulfill the A through G admission requirements, and you have to have a grades of C or better and take the SAT or ACT. Now, as a high school counselor, very rarely, and I'm just being honest, have I seen a student be admitted to a Cal State with like less than a 2.3 unless they go through the EOP program. So always, parents, remember, the higher the grades, it'll increase your chance of getting admitted into the university. Okay, next slide. But I don't know, we can focus. One thing that's interesting that I learned about being a college counselor, and I don't mind if this slide is shared, is that the CSUs, they have local admission service areas. So for example, if you wanted to go to Cal State Dominguez, well, then they basically admit students, or they're just like with the LA Unified, you have home schools. It's the same type of thing with the CSU system. And so Cal State Long Beach, for example, they service Compton, Gardena, basically all of the areas surrounding the South Bay. And the next slide, I'm sorry, it's not clear, but based upon your grade point average, that determines the score that you have to earn in order on the SAT or the ACT. Now, fortunately for this year's class and next year's class, they're not requiring the SAT or the ACT, but any other year, you'd have to have a certain grade point average, and that would be the score that you would have to earn on your standardized test. Now, even though, and I'm going back to the service areas, even though you may want to go to Cal State Long Beach and you are, and you're not in the service area, but you're living, in Southern California, since you're not in their service area, you're held to a higher standard. And so even though that may be your home school, if the major is impacted, meaning full, then they'll expect for that student to have higher grades and higher test scores. Next slide. Now the UCs and basically the University of California and most college counselors, we tend to focus on the University of California admission requirements because the UCs have the highest or the strictest admission requirements in America. So if a child is eligible to get into UC, then 9 times out of 10, they're admissible in other schools out of state. So there are 10 schools statewide. They're 4-year institutions and they're known as research institutions. And you can earn your bachelor's, master's, doctoral, or professional degrees. The minimum grade point average is a 3.0. And the admission A through G admission requirements you have to fulfill, and we'll go over that. Grades of C or better, but I'm going to be like, if you wanted to get into a UCLA, then on average, the average grade point average I've seen that's come across my desk is usually like really a 4.0, but I'll tell you why that's not. It's basically there's a variety of different components that goes into, it's a holistic review when you're trying to get into a UC. So you're not only focused on a child's grades, but you have to fulfill the A through G admission requirements. Grades of C are better, but I don't want you to think C's are okay. Okay, and I never tell my students that getting a C is okay. Like I like to tell them, or my analogy was that if you were getting on the bus, the MTA in the morning, would you like for your bus driver to earn an A in bus driving, a B in driving, or a C in driving? And 9 times out of 10, they'll say an A, And so the same thing, you ate at McDonald's, did you want the cook to earn an A, a B, or a C? So like I tell them, you don't want to be average, A's and B's, really, and you always want to strive for A's. And SAT, you'll take the SAT or ACT, but because of COVID and the UCs found that the SAT was somewhat culturally biased, they're no longer requiring the SAT. So this year it was for the first time, and while I was a UC reader, that there weren't test scores on that test. But some kids still went on and took the initiative to take the test anyway, but we were told that we were not to count those scores. But if you would like to demonstrate proficiency in a subject area, maybe you want to go into biology, you want to be a doctor, then I would recommend taking the subject exam in biology or chemistry. And then also, like I said, the UCs not only focus on grades, but they also look at your awards and honors, your extracurriculars, your activities, your community service, then their personal insight questions. And said earlier, really the subject, the 2 subject exams really were weighed more than the SAT or the ACT this year. Okay. And the rationale behind that, and raise your hand if you have a question. I don't want to just, if I'm going, just keep talking. But the rationale behind that is that the UCs want to admit students who are well-rounded. So not only do they want students who are academic, but they want students who are involved in extracurriculars and community service, because that shows that's a student that's well-rounded, and especially community service, because in the California Master Plan, the whole goal, or the universities are designed to the four systems were designed for students to not only graduate from the university, but also to return to their communities and give back. So they feel that if you demonstrate community service early on in your life, then that student will more likely graduate from college, become successful, and give back to their community. Also, the personal insight question, that's basically a student's interview. And so if you want, there's always a question about an obstacle that they had to overcome, or what is their favorite subject. So that's the time for the reader to really develop insight into that applicant. Next slide. I'm sorry, next slide. Okay. And then, of course, we have your private or independent colleges. There's 77 statewide. You have your 2 and your 4-year programs. Like I said before, not like I said before, but you have Mount St. Mary's. They're known for their nursing program. They're different. And so, for example, Mount St. Mary's, you can earn your AA degree and then transfer over and earn your BA degree in nursing. And that school is right across the AA campus, or the community. The 2-year program is right across from USC, and then a lot of students go on and transfer over to the 4-year campus, which is across from UCLA. Then you have your bachelor's degrees, and then your master's, doctoral. Basically, you can earn the same degrees that you can earn at a UC or a college or community college. You can also earn at a private or independent college. Then the grade point averages vary. USC, if you're interested, or Stanford or Pepperdine. Basically, like I said before, if you can get into a UC, then you fulfill those admission requirements to get into a private college or university. But one note, they are more expensive. Okay, next slide. Then you have your HBCUs, your Hispanic colleges, and those colleges require that you complete the Common App. And so the historically Black colleges and universities, that's where our Madam Vice President is a graduate of. And basically they were created because back in history, Blacks weren't allowed to attend traditionally white universities and colleges. And so these colleges were designed for Black students. So, but although they were designed for Black students to attend, when I go, I don't know, well, Rebecca mentioned that my daughter is a graduating senior at Howard University. And so my daughter now, when I go back there, she has friends from every nationality. You'll see students from Korea, so many students from the Middle East, Latino. And so really, even though it's a Black college, they're more than just African-American students that attend those universities. The Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities also have their own system of colleges as well. And then you have your Hispanic serving institutions, and those institutions, they receive federal funding. And so UC Irvine, as long as a college or a university, if the university has a population that is at least 35% Latino, then it's designated as a Hispanic serving institution, and they receive additional funds. And so college, Cal State Long Beach, it's been designated as a Hispanic serving institution, and UC Irvine as well. Okay. Then you have your Ivy League schools like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Cornell, Columbia, and there's a whole system. Basically, those schools are back east, and they're definitely, what is that? Not Malia Obama's a graduating senior of Harvard University, and those universities require that you complete the Common App. Now go back, the UCs, they have their own applications. The CSU have their own application. And then the private colleges, basically a child will have to fulfill or complete the Common App. And the Common App is, the main difference is that a child is required to have at least 2 recommenders and then also their high school counselor. Okay, next slide. And then I just like to warn students, just be careful of for-profit colleges. It's been my students' experience that a lot of times those colleges will come on the campus and they're offering students a lot of aid and a lot of just basically pipe dreams, and then they end up in a lot of debt because most of the times, I remember one of us, the aeronautical college, but they were offering a high school diploma and it was going to cost the child $56,000 for a diploma. And the child's mother was a housekeeper, and it was just a big mess for him to get out of that deposit because that was basically her month's pay. But so just have to realize that although it may sound good on paper, you just have to be leery. And we found a program, like for example, Cal State San Bernardino, they offer a BA in aeronautical engineering. It's not aeronautical engineering, but aeronautical mechanics. And so the child was able to get his degree in that for free. And then also Cal State Bakersfield. So you just have to be leery and be careful. Okay, next slide. Okay, eligibility. Okay, next slide. So to get into a UC, you have to have your A through G courses fulfilled, particular grade point average, exams, and extracurriculars. Okay, next slide. And so here are the A through Gs. And fortunately, LA Unified, they've adopted the A through G as graduation requirements. So most students are now, well, not most, but they have to fulfill them in order to earn their high school diploma. So students have to earn 2 years, have at least, and this is minimum, 2 years of history, 4 years in English, 3 years of mathematics, 2 years of laboratory science, 2 years of a language other than English, 1 year of the same visual art, and 1 year of a college prep elective. Okay, next slide. Okay, but I wanted to look at this, and if you notice that there was a plus sign there, and so the more academic classes a child has in their background, that will increase their chances of being admitted into a university, because the university wants to admit students who are not only have a high grade point average, but they want to admit students who are academically prepared. So they feel that the child that goes on and takes advanced coursework, that child will be able to they're prepared academically, so not only are they eligible to be admitted into the university, but they're 9 times out of 10, they'll graduate from the university. And so if you look here, this is just an example of a 4-year plan. And parents, if you wanted to take a picture of that, if your child is in middle school or in elementary school, just something for them to know and something it's a goal for them to reach for. And I like for them to focus on mathematics. If you notice, in Algebra 1, it's just so key that hopefully, ideally, your child will have Algebra 1 or geometry, so there's in 9th grade. And then ideally, or you could tell me, the child that takes Algebra 1, geometry, and Algebra 2, and then also they'll go on and they'll take math analysis. So 3 is required, but 4 recommended. And so whenever you see that on any little chart or whatever the colleges pass out, then make sure you go on and take the recommended part. That's a big clue. Laboratory science, biology, chemistry. But if that child goes on and takes physics and let's say physiology, that child will be admitted over the child that stopped at chemistry. The same for foreign language, and then the same for the same visual and performing arts. That's just to make sure the child is well-rounded. And then they want a child to have an extra year in the academic elective. And so what that means is that if that child, you only have to have 2 years of history to be admitted into the university. So that year that the child spends in government and economics will go towards their academic elective. So if they go on and take their advanced classes, then they will fulfill the G requirement. And then once again, you want to make sure they're earning B's and A's. Okay, next slide. So we're going to look at this, and a lot of kids think, well, 9th grade doesn't count. And I'm sorry, but I'm used to presenting to high school students. And so 9 times out of 10, the kids will be so upset. And I hate presenting this to 11th graders and 12th graders because they're always mad when they realize 9th grade counted. Yes, 9th grade counted, because they feel like, well, 9th grade, they have time to pretend or play high school, and then they'll get serious in 10th grade. But their classes that go toward their college grade point average on their application really begins that year, that summer after 9th grade, all the way up until that summer after 11th grade. And those are the classes that are going to be used to determine their grade point average for admission. And then what happens at the bottom row, after that child is admitted, then they have to submit their transcripts, and then the colleges will look and see what type of classes the child took in their senior year, as well as their academic performance. And so there's no such thing as senioritis. A lot of kids think when they're seniors, then that's the year where they can get an abbreviated schedule and go to work and that type of thing and just take a lot of electives. But if you're a serious college student or you seriously want to go to college, then university feels that student will take as many academic classes as they can. So usually at least 4 to 5, because they feel like that's the year where they should be preparing to enter a university. Okay, next slide. Now, as a UC reader, we're stressed that it's really stressed that you're looking for rigor in the application. And so this is basically the hierarchy of rigor. And so what happens is that the university wants to make sure that the applicant is always going beyond, because they feel, once again, that if a child or a student takes advanced classes in college and they also take the AP classes in high school, that student is seeking rigor and they're trying to challenge themselves, and that student will be motivated to go to college as well as graduate from college. And so as far as the hierarchy, when you're looking at an application, you look to see whether or not a child took a college class. So you can always go to your high school counselor. I had one student, my most recent experience was Narbonne High School, and I had a student who had taken at least 12 classes at El Camino in mathematics. It was just a phenomenon. But they want to make sure that so if you take, first of all, you should take college classes. And then if you can't take a college class, then you take the AP courses, because one thing about your AP classes is that you earn an extra grade point. And so okay, this is a personal note. And if you take an AP class and you earned a 5 or better, then that student doesn't have to take the class once they get into college. And so the only thing that's holding up my daughter from college, her graduation from Howard, is that they want her to resend her AP scores from when she was in high school, because she didn't take US history in college because she earned a 5 when she was in high school. And so we have 4 days to find that score. So if I seem a little scattered, I might be. No, I'm just kidding. So she's going to resend that score. And so that's one thing, one advantage of AP classes. Not only does it demonstrate rigor, but if they earn an AP score, like an AP English language, they can take that class in 11th grade, and AP English Lit in their senior year. And once they get into the university, then they won't have to take freshman English. Okay. Or like, for example, my poor baby, you know, she did really well on the on her AP US history exam. So when you're in the university, she didn't have to take hopefully United States history. Then you can also go down, and so it's really advanced classes, college level counts classes are basically the same level. Then if they can't fit one of those type of classes into their schedule, then they should take an honors class. And then after that, just, you know, a regular class. Okay, next slide. I kind of went along. Okay, and then one thing that counts that students are always shocked, but these classes are not calculated into their grade point average. PE, health, and woodshop and leadership. Okay, next slide. So one thing about the AP exam is that the AP classes, as said earlier, you get the extra grade point. So normally an A is worth 4 points. An honors, AP, or even a college class is called, they're weighted. You can earn the extra grade point. So you would earn, the child can earn a 5. A B in a regular class is a 3, and then the AP class a 4, and then a C, you know, is a 2, and then an AP or honors or a college class is a 3. Anything lower than a D or a fail, then it doesn't count. As far as high school graduation and credits, it counts, but the universities do not count D. So the student has to take that class over again if they want to go into it, you know, they want to be admitted into a university. Then you look at one example, English, this student earned a 4, geometry, he earned a 3, a B, a D, a 1, drawing a 4, which would be his visual art, world history a 4, and then PE doesn't count. And so as far as his college grade point average, so that student, this just tells you how it's calculated. So that student has a total of 16 grade points divided by 5 classes, so he has a 3.2. But on the other side, if you notice, that child did really well except for AP biology, but that D did not count. So once again, I was somewhat sad when LA was not kind of from the old school, because I think D shouldn't count because it doesn't count for admissions. Okay, next slide. Then the entrance exam, they changed that. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it seems like the universities are in a state of flux because they're determining whether or not they're going to require it. And with COVID, I'm definitely this year's class, and then the class of, I was reading 21, 22, they won't have to take the standardized test. But the main thing to know is that the SAT is designed to test how a child thinks. And so you'll get a lot of, or not get a lot, but you'll have a lot of abstract questions because it's designed to test their critical thinking skills. Versus the ACT, that's actually a test designed to test what the student has actually learned. So a lot of students will tend to say, oh, I didn't do well on the SAT because I didn't even know that stuff. But it's not designed for you to see questions that you are familiar with or something that you learned in high school. So a lot of students tend to do well or better on the ACT. And on the East Coast, the ACT is stressed more than the SAT. If you want to test or demonstrate proficiency to your admissions officer, then you would go on and take the SAT subject exam. Even though the UCs no longer require it, students do take it and it is on their application and you can't help see the score. So that's just my honest opinion. Next one, next slide. Okay, okay, next slide, I just kind of be done. Okay, and so I just want to go over what's admissible and what's the competitive. A student who's admissible, meaning that's a student who met the minimum requirement. So if you have a 3.0, you can enter or you can apply to a UC. You completed 15 A through G courses. You don't necessarily, you never taken any honors classes, and you only had a 3 A through G classes and you scored 1,400 on the SAT. Well, that student's admissible. But the student that's more competitive, and that's what you want to encourage your child to be competitive, excuse me, is a student who's earned at least a 3.8 or higher. They've taken 21 A through G courses from 9th grade to 12th grade. And they've taken at least 6 honors AP and college level classes. I'm sorry about that. And they've had at least 5 core classes their senior year. And I'm sorry, this is based off an older slide. Now the highest score you can earn on the SAT is 1600. And you also have to have be well-rounded and demonstrate your extracurriculars. And I've had students, and this is like in our norming sessions with the readers and with UCLA, and we've had cases where students have like 4.2s on their grade point average and 4.5s. They've done everything, did really well on the SAT, like 1500 on the SAT, but they didn't have any extracurriculars. And I can't stress that more enough. My son, he's a senior now at UCLA, and he had a wonderful grade point average and did really well in the SAT, but I think he really was admitted because he was a student body president. And so at Narbonne High School. And so that's what they want. They want to look for leaders. And so if you have a child who you want to, I'm not saying run for president of the student body if they're not interested in that, but they should be leaders of a club, or they should start their own club, and they want leaders. Okay, next slide, please. So like I said before, you want students who are well-rounded. And one thing, well, I'll just say, just for talking, but like I said, like my son, he was saying you can tell the majors, what a student is majoring in on campus, because you have some students who are STEM majors. And he said, Mom, you should just see them. All they're doing, they're reading in their books, and in the cafeteria, they're in their books. They're walking around in their books, and you can just tell how stressed they are. But you want students who are well-rounded, who can take defeat, who can balance, who are active inside and outside, because that child is more likely to be able to handle pressure and challenges. And okay, next slide. Honors, and one thing also for your college applications, that they could enter essay, speech, or art contests. Maybe they've been involved in sports, captain, once again, leadership roles, academic recognition, and then also their test performance on standardized test scores. All of those things are on the application. Okay, next slide. And then clubs, sports, they want to make sure you're involved in extracurriculars. So once again, volunteering. And one thing I note about students who, okay, I live in South Central Los Angeles, so I'm just going to say that. One thing that I noticed about students who are applying to UCLA from Orange County and up north and all that, they're really involved in key clubs. And when I taught, basically most of my experience, or all of my experience, is being a counselor at Washington High School, Dorsey High School, Crenshaw, and then I ended at Narbonne at the end of my career. But I don't remember key clubs. And when you get these applications and all the little kids are in key clubs, it's like, I don't remember that at Crenshaw. And it's just interesting to see how much exposure other students have, so if they want to start a key club on their high school campus, they get credit for tutoring, internships. If your child is involved, or you can start as early as 9th grade, but there's a wonderful program. It's the Eve and Jean Black Medical Program, Pediatric Society, and your child can spend the summer at Cedars-Sinai Hospital shadowing a neurosurgeon. And there's so many programs out there. UCLA, I would look at it now. If you have a middle schooler, they have a wonderful program called the SMASH program, and they go on campus. They stay on campus in the summer. It's totally free of charge, and they take classes in STEM careers. And then also musical performances, and then, like I said, I'm sorry, summer programs. So all these things really help a child to become developed and to enhance their application. Okay, next slide. And then once again, like, you have a lot of kids and, like I stress, extracurricular activities and community service, but you'll get an application where some kids cannot perform community service because they have to go home and watch their siblings. Well, that's leadership. Okay. And it's just all depends upon how you word the application. But once again, if you can strive to make sure your child is well rounded and take leadership roles. Okay, thank you. Okay, and these are just an important dates, but I don't have any seniors in the audience. And so this is basically the same dates every year. And one thing that's important is that the FAFSA, they really extended that under President Obama. So you can complete your FAFSA as far as early as in October. And what that stands for is the free application for federal student aid. So a lot of times students will say, I want to go to college, but I can't afford it. And like I tell them, this is the only time in your life where the less money your parents make, the more money you'll get in financial aid. And so don't say because you don't have a lot of money, your parents don't make any money, that's even better for you. And I have kids who've had full rides because of that. And so, and then also, if they are undocumented, if they're an undocumented student, that's why I love California, because they can apply for the Dream App application. And they're also entitled to the same financial aid as a citizen is. And so the money is no longer an issue. And I'll just say one note. I'm the smartest student I've ever had. Her name was Rosa. Had a 5 in AP calculus. This is at Dorsey. But this was the early 90s. And Rosa was undocumented and she couldn't go to college. And I ran into her and she's at Subway. But it really just broke my heart to see someone who had the potential and wanted to go but couldn't go. And so I always stress, and I'll stop preaching, but I always stress to my students, you have to take advantage of the opportunity. You owe it to others. Okay, next slide. I'm sorry, Rebecca. Okay. Okay, and this is just the same. This is just, if you want to take a picture of that for your reference, these are just sample questions of the personal insight questions that if you're applying to the UC, you would have to complete. But basically, one footnote, the personal insight questions are really similar to the questions on the Common App. So if they do a good job with that, then more than likely they can use the same information over and over again. Okay, next slide. I'm sorry. This wasn't clear. I'm technically challenged, so I'm sorry on that note. But like I said, once again, this is just basically a guide on how to brainstorm ideas about your answer. Okay, next slide. Okay, and then with the Common App, the main thing is it's just a standard application, but the main thing is that you have to make sure you have 2 recommenders early on, and those teachers are teachers who will give you a graded recommendation and who will follow up on the deadlines. Okay, next slide. And this is just a little footnote that after if your child's in 9th grade, it's just a guideline of what can you do as a parent. And the main thing that I like to point out is that you must, as a 9th grade student, or when your child enters any school, but definitely in high school, that your child visits their high school counselor. Okay, because you want to make sure that counselor knows your face and knows that you're interested in college, interested in your child, and that your child is going to go on beyond high school. Okay, next slide. And then this is a guideline once again for 10th grade, basically the same thing, but in 10th grade, it's really important for your child to start exploring what their careers, they can start exploring what colleges they're interested in, and make sure they're on track. Okay, next slide. And then 11th grade, really that's the most crucial year for kids because students, because this is the last year that the colleges count, and those grades are calculated into their grade point average. And so if you have to make up a grade, you have to make up that grade before the beginning of your senior year. And also this is your exploratory time. It's really important for students, and if the SAT is required by the time they're 11th grader, your child is 11th graders, make sure they take the PSATs, the preliminary PSAT, and it's just like a practice SAT, but then they can also start qualifying for scholarships. Then the 11th grade year, they take the SAT the second semester of their 11th grade year, usually like in May or early June, because all of the information is fresh. A lot of seniors tend to wait until their senior year, but then you're under the gun. So I like for kids to take their standardized tests at the end of the spring year, and then, September, October of their senior year. And then also, if you have a junior that's in your house, you have to start making sure that your child is starting to research what colleges they want to go to. Okay, next slide. Okay. And then senior year, the reason why I stress that is because all the college applications are due by November 30th every year. And the reason why I know that is it's my birthday, and I've never been able to take off on my birthday. So now that I'm retired, I can't. No, let me stop. But usually, and so really, kids are really shocked if they're going to apply to a Cal State or a UC. They have to apply, the deadline is November 30th. And so the universities don't even have the opportunity to see what grades they're earning their senior year. Students tend to feel like, okay, I can make a comeback my 12th grade year, but no, it's too late. It's 9th grade through, the end of their 11th grade year. Okay, next slide. Okay, and this is basically the same. You're getting ready for graduation. Oh, also, I like to say that as a parent, if you have a child that's young, in elementary school, now is a good time or outstanding time to open up a 529 plan. That's basically all states have them. And what happens is that you can start contributing to your child's education tax-free. And then when they're a senior, you can, or when you're paying and you have to pay their tuition, you can withdraw that money tax-free. So now is the time to start saving for college as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'm sorry, next slide. Okay, and then I'd like to know, does anybody have any questions? Am I doing this correct, Rebecca?
You sure are.
Oh,
that
okay.
was a lot of great information. I think everyone's probably just processing them.
Sorry.
No, don't be. This is valuable stuff.
May I ask Ms. Florentino or Mr. McLean, what grade is your child in?
Oh, I don't have kids.
Oh, but that's okay.
Ms. Lisette is here supporting the presentation. So we're here helping you out, answering questions on chat.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you. And Mr. McLean? I think you're on mute.
I'm an intern from LACC, so I'm just observing.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for visiting, and I hope I wasn't too wordy.
No.
Okay. No, you gave a lot of information.
You did wonderful. You did wonderful. Thank you so much for this information. Miss Daphne, is there anything on here that we could share with our participants? This is a lot of wonderful information. I'm thinking specifically the grade, the things to kind of look out for per grade.
Yes. Well, feel free if you'd like to save it and send it or share it. It's definitely, there's no problem. Just here to.
Great, thank you so much.
Hello, Miss
Thank you.
Daphne. This is Alberta. I have a 15-year-old.
Okay.
He's at Dorsey right now, and he's taking community college classes at Trade Tech, because they actually let kids start as early as middle school if the kids are ready. And some of the middle school kids that are part of that program are amazing. You know, some of them are definitely capable. So he took his first one in ninth grade. No, eighth grade. So you can catch up on math. You know how my daughter was able to take algebra in eighth grade, but now they're not pushing, eighth grade. So some of the kids catch up on math to get ahead in math at Trade Tech, and it's free. It's totally free, and it's online right now, so it's great.
You just have to have permission from your high school counselor with it. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things, like in terms of us, I talked to the principal, so we kind of, you can get permission, but also there's steps that you can go if you have a kid that's really motivated.
May I ask, is your child involved in the VIP program at Dorsey?
Yes.
Oh, great. That's my son is his advisor, Eugene.
Yeah, actually he has a interview tomorrow with the UCLA people.
Oh, my son is the advisor.
Oh, he is.
What's your son's name? I could tell him.
Anderson Moore.
Anderson Moore. Okay, I'll tell him. He's great. He's a graduating senior, but I'm sure. Oh, this is funny. I'm sure I'm sure he'll go through he's a part of the selection process.
The VIP program, like my daughter.
I love it. I love it.
Well, so that's why, that's what, and one thing that's what I'm saying with extracurricular activities, if your child has a UCLA EAOP program on their campus, or like the VIT program, or Talent Search, or College Bound, all of those programs really enhance their application as well as their educational experience. But I'm going to tell Eugene, your son's name is Anderson Moore?
Yeah, like Anderson Cooper.
Oh, okay. I'll tell him tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. Well, yeah, it's an outstanding program, because most of the kids that were admitted to UCLA last year, the minority students were a part of the VIT program, because they definitely kind of, okay, one thing about that, like if you have, or you can tell your clients, or your, anybody that you're counseling, is that if there's a UCLA EAOP, that stands for the Early Academic Outreach Program, and they're usually in middle schools and high schools. There's two components, but it shows that you're admitted, or it'll increase your chance of getting into the university because you're a part of their success story. So why wouldn't you take a student from the UCLA VIT program and be admitted to UCLA because you're a part of their success story? So that's excellent. But you are correct, Ms. Moore. But only thing I do I've had kids or students who they've earned their AA and then they've earned their high school diploma. And so when they get to the university, then they are considered juniors, okay, because they've earned their AA. And one thing about that is that students have to be careful of that, because once you get into the university, then you can't take freshman classes. And it usually happens to my kids that are STEM majors, because they really get lost, because once they transfer over from high school, yes, you earn your AA, but then once you get into to the university, then they weren't able to compete academically. So I tell kids, of course, it's great to go on and earn or take as many community colleges as you can, but just remember, you can't take a freshman class if you earn your AA while you're in high school. kids that are kids. Well, I'm 62, so I'm sorry, Michael. But students that are older, you know, and they're community college graduates, and then they go on and transfer over, then they're successful because they're mature enough to handle it. But it's difficult for an 18-year-old to go into an advanced mathematics class and maintain that same level of pace as an older student. Okay. But I'm sorry, I will go on forever, so I'm sorry, Rebecca. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
And please, you can share my email if anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And congratulations on your twins about to graduate.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a long road, but it's worth it. So, yeah. All right, so
well, again, Miss Daphne, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sticking it out. I know it wasn't easy logging on with all the technical difficulties, so I really appreciate it. This was definitely worth the wait. To all of you parents and caretakers and guardians and mentors, thank you for joining us. Again, if you want the slides from Miss Daphne, please put your email in the chat along with any other information that you need from us. Please do that. I went ahead and put the links to some of those resources that we shared with you. So please go back, and thank you so much for being here. Ms. Daphne, it was really nice to see you. You look fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
And the presentation was on point.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, please tell Ms. Maxine. And I'm sorry. No, please tell her anytime. Okay, so thank you.
I will. All right,
bye-bye.
We will be here same time, same place next week if you want to join us for Mr. Anderson. And we hope to see you back.
Okay, I'm just ready to log on. All right, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. I got some emails. Okay, great. I'll send these out. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have put in the chat some information on summer programs. It was right above the one for USC because they have free summer programs. You know how you always try in addition to the Woody.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you.
You know, my sister-in-law had just called me, so I had looked it up, but folks are always looking for extracurricular summer programs. And
absolutely, absolutely. If it's okay, I'm going to share that out when I share the slides.
Please.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
I loved it. She was so clear and concise because
she knows her stuff. She knows her stuff.
Because some people, you know, but it was
boom. She was just shooting off valuable nuggets left and right. I love it.
That was great. Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
All right, bye.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Ms. Lisette, for your help. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I got all the emails down though.
Oh, thank you so much. Do you have my email address?
No, if I could just get it.
Can you, here.
Will you be sharing the links also when you send us the information to our email?
Absolutely, Miss Tracy. I will send that. And oh shoot, I forgot to tell everybody. I think you're a returning member. This video is going to be uploaded to our YouTube page tonight and should go live tomorrow. And it will be uploaded to our website as well.
Okay. All
so
right.
you can go back, but I will share those links and I will share the slides as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, got your email. So I should email them to you, right?
Yes, please. I am so glad that you're going to be helping me. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah. At first I was like, oh my God, like I didn't know how to put the music on.
Don't stress about it. Don't, because We've all been there. So don't stress about it. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it.
No problem. And it's good that I'm, you know, doing this so I could later on know what.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right.
All right. Well, have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.